So moving right along, we'll jump into 10 through 5, the current pound for pound list that I have. For me, and most importantly, this 10 through 5, very, very difficult to comprise, especially with how the last year and a half in the sport has gone. I think this is probably as spot on as I could make it. If you don't see a guy in here, he may be a little bit higher up. And if you don't see a guy here that was in my honorable mention, one of these guys can be replaced by any of those guys. But I did want to go into at least what 10 through 5 will look like for you guys. So coming in at number 10 is Josh Taylor, one half of the unified championship that exists at 140 pounds. Got a big win over Regis Prograis in a fight that I didn't think he could win. And Josh Taylor, there's nothing negative that I could say about what he's done lately in the sport. He entered the World Boxing Super Series with the expectation that he was going to come out with, holding multiple titles, have the ability to be considered the lineal champion in the division, and at the same time set himself up for bigger fights. And that's what he's been able to do. And it seems like he's on a crash course for a fight against my number 9, which is Jose Ramirez, who had a really good fight against Maurice Hooker, in which he won and he unified the second half of the 140-pound crown. And for Jose Ramirez, the reason why he's a little bit higher than Josh Taylor right now is because Jose Ramirez's overall body of work through the Maurice Hooker fight has been a little bit stronger. And the Hooker fight was just the icing on top of the cake to kind of make Jose a premier fighter in the sport, something that he was lacking and missing, and something that I needed him to do because he seemed content at some point with just fighting guys that were being placed in front of him instead of fighting the guys that we know that he could fight. And a winner between Taylor and Ramirez will probably find themselves at least on knocking on the door of my top 5. Coming in at number 8 is Manny Pacquiao, who is still doing what he does best at what seems to be 99 years old. Pacquiao is considered to still make himself a major player of the welterweight division. He's still a champion. He's coming off of a very dominant win against Keith Thurman, in which he knocked Thurman down for the very first time in his career. And at the same time, Manny Pacquiao still considers to be high on a totem pole in terms of fighters that you want to fight if you are a welterweight. And for that and his longevity in the sport and the fact that he's fought really good fighters, at least in the last couple of years, he deserves this spot. He's not as high as he used to be, but he's still got enough in the tank to make a pound-for-pound list, in my opinion. Coming in at number 7 is Arthur Beterbiev, and Beterbiev is the guy at light heavyweight. I know a lot of people have a lot of invested into Dmitry Bivol, but I think Beterbiev is he's way more well-rounded than a lot of these guys are in that division. He is a late bloomer, and he seems to just continue to get better as he gets older. And as long as he's in that division, the light heavyweights in that division, they're going to have to fight him, and not many of them are going to be able to handle staying in the ring with him. For Beterbiev, what seems to be next is you would consider the Bivol fight. I don't see Canelo taking an opportunity to fight Arthur Beterbiev unless he sees some slippage. So for Beterbiev, he's doing everything that he needs to do at this current moment in the sport in order to make his case as one of the best fighters in the sport. And just the dominant fashion that win that he had, and winning in dominant fashion against Alexander Vozdik was something that not many people expected. I kind of expected it, but not many people. So for Beterbiev, just keep doing what you're doing. And last but not least, my 6th ranked fighter in the pound for pound is Jermell Charlo. Beating Jason Rosario was exactly what he needed. Jermell Charlo has spent so much time having to retool himself as a fighter, from what kind of fights does he wants to fight to, what kind of style is he really, and he's found his style and he's made it work. I thought he beat Tony Harrison both times, and I think this fight against Rosario was just the icing on the cake, given that Rosario had beaten J-Rock after J-Rock had beaten Swift Jarrett Hurt. So now Charlo is the man to beat at 154, and I think he should go for a unification next based on what happens with the WBO.